We're going to call this the February meeting of Lenoir County Board of Education to order. We will recognize Ms. Herring for the invocation.
Thank you. Let us pray. May the words spoken in this room tonight be beneficial to the students, parents, staff, and administrators in our school system, and may we be led by the guiding principle to always base our decisions on the best interests of our young people. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Mr. Williams will present the agenda for this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the Board of Education, tonight it's my pleasure to present for your consideration, review, and for approval tonight's agenda.
Motion to approve the board agenda as presented.
So a motion by Mr. Hill to approve the agenda. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. King. Any further discussion on the agenda for this evening? All right, then we'll call for a vote. We're going to ask our board members on the phone to just say aye, if you would. We'll call for a vote on the motion. All in favor? Aye. That's one. Was that Mr. Woods? You in favor of the agenda? Or are you still there?
Yes, sir.
So there we go. Unanimous, the agenda is approved. Next item is the board chair comments. We want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. Mr. Woods and Mr. Smith were unable to be here directly, so they are going to participate by telephone tonight, which is pretty typical of our board members. I don't, in 5 or 6 years, I don't remember any board member just missing a meeting. They're always here for us, and we appreciate that they're here, and we're going to include them as much as we possibly can. So we're going to turn it over to Mr. Williams for the announcements.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to begin tonight by certainly stating something that we all know in the Lenoir County Public Schools family. Last week was a difficult week for this school system in losing a student. The South Lenoir High School family and the family of Jessica Ramsey lost Jessica, and her memorial service, candlelight service, was Friday night at South Lenoir High School, and funeral on Saturday. It was a very difficult week. The students and staff members of South Lenoir High School conducted themselves with a great deal of dignity and grace under very grief-stricken conditions, and I certainly want to commend them for that. And to Jessica's family, and certainly we wish them directly in person, but I certainly want to say in this venue that we will continue to keep them in our thoughts and prayers in the difficult days to come. Over the weekend, we do have some good news to report. The High School Athletic Association 2A state finals for track and field took place, and one of our teams, Kinston High School's track and field team, was competing for a state championship, and we're very proud of them. They came in as state runner-ups, number 2 in the state in the 2A division of high school, North Carolina High School Athletic Association ranking. So very proud of them. In addition to the state runner-up designation, many of our students won in individual areas at the state level. We're so proud of all of our students, proud of our coaches. Congratulations to Coach Corey Bryant and Coach Crystal Bryant. Coach Bryant and Bryant, what a dynamic duo. They happen to be brother and sister, and they're outstanding coaches and certainly treasures to our school system. So congratulations to Ms. Kellen Bryant and the Kinston High School family on that well-deserved win. North Carolina High School Science Olympiad regional competition for middle schools and high schools was held at Lenoir Community College on Saturday. And as many of you might know, and as I've addressed in board meetings over time, Our district doesn't have a long track record of participation. Prior to last year, not ever more than 3 of our schools, and generally no more than 2 of our 17 schools have participated. But as you know, one of our strategic goals last year was to say that we will be at the table, we will be involved, we will be engaged, and we will compete. And whatever the results, we'll know that we were there and we did our best. And last year we had a good showing, a good, strong initial first time showing. This year we built upon that, and I'm very pleased to report some results to you. That in the middle school divisions, all 4 of our middle schools won, not once, not twice, but all 4 of our middle schools had at least 3 wins in various divisions, 3 wins each. So we were so proud of them. In the high school divisions, 3 of our high schools had at least 1 win each. North Lenoir and Lenoir County Early College High School and South Lenoir High School, and then 2 of our high schools, Early College High School and South Lenoir, had at least 3 wins in various categories each. So very, very proud of our, maybe you could say it like this, our second time at bat, we did very, very well. We're going to come back next year and do even better. Now, who was in the competition? High schools from all over the southeast region and some from outside the region. These were public schools and private schools as well. And schools from as far south as New Hanover, Onslow, as far north as Roanoke Rapids. So we're very pleased with our schools and how they did. And the elementary competition will take place weekend after next at Pink Hill Elementary School. That'll be the regional competition for Science Olympiad. So we hope that many of you can make that as well and cheer on our students. Last year, all of our elementary schools in their first time competing at the regional level placed in at least 1 category, and we're hoping for the same this year. Okay, so again, Saturday, February 24th. February, as you know, is a very busy month, a lot going on. Some things going on this week. They tell me there's something going on the 14th of a romance nature. If that's true, I wish you well in that. February is National Black History Month. Our schools have many events planned and activities planned to celebrate the month. In addition, all of our schools are incorporating a full range of instructional resources to increase awareness and to provide a meaningful and lasting educational impact for National Black History Month celebration. We hope that you as board members and you as community members will be able to attend some of these Black History Month celebrations and events, and board members will be sending you an updated list. February is also National Career Technical Education Month, National CTE Month. Now, CTE is very near and dear to us. We have many CTE teachers, central office CTE staff members, and most important, many CTE students and their parents in the room tonight. Now, I'm not going to steal Miss Amy Jones' thunder. She has a presentation for you later, and we're very pleased by that, so I won't steal her thunder. But I would at this time like for all CTE students and teachers to stand, and let's give them a round of applause. Thank you very much. Thank you for what you're doing. National CTE Month is a public awareness campaign that takes place each February to celebrate the value of CTE and the achievements and accomplishments of the programs across our country. You'll certainly see a good, strong representation of that tonight from our teachers and our young people. Very proud of them and what they're doing. If you truly want to be impressed, and I said this in our senior staff meeting today, there's nothing more impressive than going to our schools. There's a lot to impress, but nothing more so than walking around our CT programs and our shops and seeing the welding and seeing the ag ed programs and seeing the tilapia in the fish tanks and seeing what they're doing in the horticulture classes and the animal science programs and the meat grading. and placing at the national level. So proud of our CTE programs, our health sciences programs, and the CNAs that they can earn, and the partnerships with with UNC Lenoir. It's truly impressive, truly impressive. So we invite you to our campuses to talk to our administrators, talk to our teachers, and see what's going on with CTE. It's not just a month, it's every day, and we're proud of them every day. But tonight we'll pause and acknowledge what they're doing. February is also National Financial Aid Awareness Month. And this is something that sometimes gets pushed to the side, but if you've been through college in recent years, or if you have a college student, or if you have a college student in your family, you know how important financial aid can be with the tremendous cost and ever-increasing cost of college. Well, the financial aid process is one that sometimes seems a mystery to some, and quite frankly, we were talking earlier today, I work in education and I work with this type of paperwork all the time, but if you have filled out a form called the FAFSA form, it is a very difficult and can be cumbersome form. Now, it's less difficult, less cumbersome than it has been in the past, but one of the goals of this month is to work with the College Foundation, and they work with our counselors, and we partner with Lenoir Community College and shed light on that process and help parents see how to fill out the paperwork and how to go through the process of trying to seek financial aid for college and beyond. So that's another thing. Our all-county band performance will be on Saturday, February 17th at the Kinston High School Performing Arts Center. We hope that you all will join us for our concert. I believe our concert starts at 3 p.m. So we hope that you can join us. Our Goodwill Community Foundation, we want to say a huge thank you to them and to Mr. Holmes, our contact here at Central Services, who directed those efforts. But the Goodwill Community Foundation donated a full bag of school supplies to every single K-5 student in Lenoir County Public Schools. Every student in our school system got a bag of school supplies. That was a very generous and extravagant gift, but I'm so pleased, proud, and thankful that they chose our school system to make that gift in, and they came and presented it personally. We went around to each school. We had some great assemblies, and I helped participate in that, as did Mr. Harvey and others, and we handed those to students directly. So thank you, Goodwill Community Foundation. The North Carolina School Boards Association Academy for School Boardsmanship has awarded several of our Board of Education members for awards for successful completion of school board training in 2016-2017, last school year. Now, we recognize the board members for last year's board hours after the state conference in the fall. And I believe at the January meeting, they sent us notification that certificates would be on the way. Those certificates have arrived, and we'll present those at the end of today's meeting. And we'll get Mr. Holmes to take a picture. But we recognized each board member and called out their training hours last meeting before last. But they are, again, Mr. W.D. Anderson, a Certificate of Achievement, Mr. Bruce Hill, Scholar's Circle with the most training hours, and he's in the top tier of training hours for the state, Mr. John Sargent, Certificate of Advanced Achievement, and Mr. Merwin Smith. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That concludes my report.
All right, thank you, Mr. Williams. The next item is public comment. And I understand we do not have anyone signed up tonight, so we'll move to the presentation portion of our agenda. First item is the Digital Learning Student Showcase. I think Ms. Herring is introduced.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As part of our ongoing digital initiative, we have schools present to showcase their use of digital learning. Students will present on their projects dealing with coding in the classroom from Moss Hill Elementary School this evening. Computer science enables kids to be creators rather than just consumers of technology. In storytelling, students use computer science to tell fun and interactive stories. Storytelling emphasizes creativity by encouraging club members to tell a unique story each day. The storytelling project involved block-based coding using a program called Scratch. And at this time, I'd like to introduce Ms. Catherine Lynch and Ms. Kristen Stroud. They are teachers at Moss Hill Elementary, And they brought 2 students with them this evening, Josu Garcia Lopez and Taryn Barnett. Thank you.
Welcome, guys.
Good evening.
My name's Catherine Lynch. I'm the Digital Learning Specialist at Moss Hill. Back in October, I approached Ms. Stroud and asked her would she be willing for her classroom to team up with me to introduce coding in the classroom. This was something that Hannah from Rochelle had shared with me as my mentor, and she was using the Google CS First programs. This is a free curriculum, and I really wanted to try it in an elementary school and see how it would go. So we chose storytelling to coincide with what Ms. Stroud was already doing with the curriculum in the classroom. Taryn and Josue took to this immediately. In the activities, each student gets a passport through the program, and there's 8 activities that they do each time that we meet. They're averaging about 45 minutes to an hour. A lot of times we'd have to cut them off. They would do this all day if we let them. But their projects were great. So we have 2 projects tonight that they chose that were some of their favorites. They're going to share their project with you and just talk to you for just a minute about how they use the coding blocks in order to create their work.
Hi, my name is Taryn Barnett and I'm from Moss Hill Elementary School. I'll be talking to you about broadcasting, sprites, and blocks and more. I'll be explaining right now. Well, broadcasting is when you program your sprite to do whatever you want. And then a sprite is different characters that you can put in your story. You can also personalize them to do whatever you want. Also, the say block is what you use for your characters to have dialogue. And then receiving, once it's kind of like cause and effect. The cause is the broadcasting block, and then once it receives the broadcast, you program it to do something else. Thank you.
So Taryn, can you link those together? If you do a cause and effect, can you add one? Can you make it longer and add to those? Okay, good.
Josue's going to show you the route you would take if you chose no.
That was my question, is what if you said no? I don't want to
Okay, my name is Jose Garcia Lopez. I'm also a student from Moss Hill. I will be talking about how to make your story interactive and to make it ask questions to your audience. First, you would have to use you could use a random block, which is randomizes your answer. So if you say yes, it would do this, and if you say no, it would do something else. There's also the question block, which you would use if you want to ask the audience a question. And then you would have to use an answer block if you want to put an answer. And then an if block, that way it can adapt to whatever answer that you put. And for the wait block, it waits for whatever you put in. Like if you want to wait for motion, it would wait for motion. It would wait until it receives something. If you want to broadcast it, it would have to wait. Or you could make it change shape, change color. And for equal block, it's when you tell it what's the answer. That way it would know what to do.
So Josue and Taryn, you've done a great job with this. And just for everyone here, does it help you in doing this? Does it help you to see what's behind? In computers like this one, we point and click, and it's so easy to point and click, but somebody has to write the instructions or the code to make that click happen and make those instructions get carried out. Does this process help you to see that, to see how it really comes together and how people make video games and how they make computer programs like Microsoft Word?
Yeah.
Does it help you to see that?
Yes, sir.
I'm so thankful that they're studying coding. I mean, these kids are really on the cutting edge of the hottest thing going in not only the tech world but in education as well.
You didn't mention what grade they were in.
Do you want to tell what grades you're in?
I'm fifth.
Fifth graders.
I did want to tell you what we're going to do next with it. We have an animal adaptations project that they've worked on where the students have picked their own animal, whether they designed their own or kept an animal that's already in existence and created adaptations for that animal, new adaptations. And then they also had to decide where the animal would live and that kind of thing based off of the adaptation. So our goal is to then take that and apply it to the coding project to correlate so they could do their own storytelling with their animal adaptations projects.
Thank you to Ms. Lynch and Ms. Stroud and Taryn and Josue. Great job. Let's give them a round of applause.
All right, our next item is our CTE month presentation. Ms. Jones.
Thank you. I want to say, first of all, thank you for allowing us this forum to celebrate CTE Month. We do tremendous work out in the schools, and I could not be more proud to be the director of this program. As you can see, when you ask CTE people to show up, they show up. They're here. So thank you all for being here tonight, and I especially want to say thank you to Jessica Scheimer. She really did organize and set all of this up for us and make sure that our students and teachers got out here. So did tremendous work with CTE Month. So you know I love to talk, so I do have a presentation. And then I'm going to turn it over to the students, and I just hope I can do our programs justice. I am very proud of the work that we do. Uh-oh, Charles, there's one, the password. Nope, got it that time. Got it. Thank you. Okay, thank you. All right, so tonight we are celebrating career and technical education in Lenoir County Public Schools, but it is CTE Month across the nation. And CTE Month, CTE really grew out of an act called the Smith-Hughes Act of 1917, which was signed in February of 1917, which provided federal funds to promote vocational agriculture to train individuals, and it did succeed in expanding that type of education. And so there have been lots and lots of variations of the law throughout the years, and now what we refer to, what funds CTE, is the Perkins Act. And we would like that to be reauthorized, so if you have any help and pull there, we appreciate that.
And Ms. Jones, this is an appropriate time to point out that a group of us did get the opportunity to go to Washington, D.C. Some of our board members and Mr. Harvey and I went to D.C. last week, and we were able to walk the halls of Congress, and we were able to sit down with Senators Tillis and Burr from North Carolina and Representative Walter Jones, and to talk to them about our issues. One of them was Perkins Act, and we urged them to finish the reauthorization of the Perkins Act for CTE. bipartisan support.
That's wonderful. It's certainly needed, and you can see we're having an impact on a large number of students. So what other great things are 100? Moon pies and cheer wine, Nikon if you like photography, and the National Hockey League. So we're in very good company being 100 years old with our programming. So just a little CTE vocabulary. When I entered CTE, one of our goals is to take courses, and what the second or third course in CTE sequence of courses that builds on their previous schools, and it has to have a prerequisite. For example, if you take Health Science 1, the completer course, if you take Microsoft Word and PowerPoint, a completer course would be multimedia web page design or business law or entrepreneurship. So you're looking for those sorts of classes that are very skilled classes. Concentrators are students that have earned 4 or more technical credits, one of which is a completer course. Articulated credit is something that a lot of students and teachers probably don't know about in our district, but it's a course taken in high school which can replace a community college course if the exam and grade requirements are met. So for example, if they do take a Microsoft Office course and meet certain requirements, it can replace one of the classes at the community college, and I'll show that a little bit later. Credentials are a big thing for us. They are certifications issued by professional organizations, vendors, or employers. They demonstrate that a student has a required knowledge, skills, or abilities to perform a specific job, and we'll talk about credentials as we go through the presentation as well. So as I hit each program area, if my program areas would stand up briefly, and some of my teachers cross-program areas too, so just you stand up when it's appropriate. But my first one is agriculture. If my ag teachers and students would stand for just a moment, please. We'd love to recognize them. So a lot of times out in the community, I get questions such as, well, why don't we teach welding? Or why don't we teach carpentry? Or why don't we teach this? Or what? We actually are teaching those skills through these classes. You may not know, but a class like Ag Mechanics does encompass some of those skills, such as welding, carpentry, and even some wiring. Many of our agriculture students are involved in their student organization, FFA. You can see by the jackets, they look so sharp. But it's more than just a jacket. It's leadership development, public speaking skills, writing skills, competitions, learning how to be in front of people and put your best foot forward, and really showing off that specific skill development as well. So there are lots of things they can do in agriculture. Right now, as credentials in the ag program, we do have students who are certified in North Carolina hunter safety. There are lots of other credentials they can earn as well. Architecture and construction, we offer drafting 1, drafting 2, and 3, architectural, construction, core and sustainable, carpentry, and masonry. If I have any ag and construction folks here tonight, if they would stand. I do have one. Oh, ag. Oh, no, not yet. Okay, that's fine. And by the way, on the spreadsheet tonight, I thought there were 12 people coming. Just wanted to let y'all know that. But for credentials in our Masonry and Core and Sustainable department, they can get the NCCER, which is formerly known as the National Center for Construction and Education Research. It's a nationally recognized credential our students can earn. Business management and administration. If I have any business teachers, I see them out here, business teachers and students. If y'all will stand and be recognized for us. So in this program area, they're learning principles of business and finance, Microsoft Word and PowerPoint, Excel and Access. And as completer courses, they can take business law or entrepreneurship. You can tell some of my students are sporting their FBLA shirts. They look very nice tonight. And honestly, the Microsoft credentials are some of our most earned credentials in this district. So a lot of our students are getting that Microsoft Word and Microsoft PowerPoint, and then others are taking a step further and getting the Access and Excel as well. Health science. If my health science folks would stand, please. In Lenoir County, we have a very robust health science program. Students start off in health team relations or biomedical science. They move into health science 1 and 2. And then we also have a nursing fundamentals class that runs at North Lenoir High School. As a strand of health science, we also have Project Lead the Way Biomedical Sciences and Human Body Systems, which has been at North Lenoir High School and will be coming back next year as well. Students who are in health science can be part of their student organization, which is HOSA. HOSA has done wonderful community service throughout the years, such as working with our Alzheimer's Memory Walk and different things. We have a very good job shadowing partnership in our health science program at different doctor's offices, at the hospital, at the community health center throughout the community. Health science students can earn a good list of credentials. They can get CPR for healthcare providers, National Consortium for Health Science Education, CPR and First Aid, the OSHA 10-hour Healthcare Industry Certification, and then the North Carolina Nurse Aid 1. So if we have students that get the Nurse Aid 1, they can walk out of high school and go directly to a job as a nurse aide. And a lot of some of our students that do that, we know of at least 2 graduates from last year that got a job right out of high school, and then they're able to work as well as go to the community college and finish their coursework. We also have students that participate in the health science program that earn the Ribbon Scholarship, which helps pay for their education as they finish their nursing up through a 4-year degree. So very impressive program. Hospitality and tourism. I think I saw Miss Heath come in. Is she back there? All right, do I have some hospitality food students and marketing students tonight? Well, we'll applaud Miss Heath then. Thank you. So FBLA students crossover. Well, thank you. We offer marketing. We offer sports, entertainment, and marketing 1 and 2. And at all of our schools, we also offer foods 1 and 2 enterprise. And for the marketing, most of our marketing students participate in FBLA. For our food students, they can participate in FCCLA. Credentials earned. I'm very proud to say that South Lenore High School has already had 8 students credentialed in Serve Safe Food Protection, and North Lenore has had 2 students credentialed in Serve Safe Food Protection, and we anticipate more this spring, so I'm very proud of that. That's another credential they can walk right into a job with, so it's a great thing for our students. Human Services. Do I have some Human Services folks here tonight? Ms. Gutenberger, and there we go. All right. So students in the Human Services program area take Principles of Family and Human Services. At Kinston High School this year, we have revived an older program that went away for a couple of years, but it's Parenting and Child Development, and that is going extremely well at Kinston High School, and we anticipate bringing on Early Childhood Education 1 and 2 in the upcoming school year. Credentials they can earn in this area are CPR and First Aid, and then a Lead Teacher Equivalency Certification, again with the early childhood, so we anticipate that certification for next year. So we're growing and expanding our programs. Information Technology. I could bring up my other PowerPoint, but you already saw it. So. Multimedia and Web Page Design. That is also part of our FBLA, so it kind of crosses over. And we are adding Computer Science 1 and Computer Science 2. That's coming in 2018-19, and students in information technology can be part of TSA, which is the Technology Student Association. Manufacturing, we have Apparel and Textile Production 1 and Apparel and Textile Production 2, which is also an FCCLA program area. That's a very popular course if you think of the sewing and fabric and those sorts of things. STEM, do I have some STEM teachers here tonight? And students, STEM students? All right, thank you all. So in the STEM pathway at the high school, we teach technology, engineering, and design, Project Lead the Way, Introduction to Engineering Design, Project Lead the Way, Principles of Engineering, and Project Lead the Way Digital Electronics. These courses are extremely difficult. In fact, they're so difficult they earn the weight of an AP course. The Project Lead the Way courses do, so they're very challenging. Also at our middle schools, what feeds into that are our incredible STEM labs, and our middle school STEM teachers. They do an outstanding job with our students in getting them ready for high school. And those students can participate in the Technology Student Association, and we do have a competition at LCC on Friday for the TSA teams. Transportation, distribution, and logistics. I have Mr. Smith here. Yeah, do we have any automotive students out here as well? Well, we'll applaud. Thank you, Mr. Smith. They're not here, but I assure you they're in his classes because they are packed full. For transportation, distribution, and logistics, we teach Introduction to Automotive Service 1, 2, and 3. And what's interesting about this is the Eastern Carolina Workforce Development Board is actually going to make transportation and logistics their next pathway that we're going to work on. So we're definitely on the right path with our transportation pathway. And then we also offer additional coursework. These are considered enhancement courses. And so when people say, well, are you teaching kids about careers? Are they able to do career exploration? Yes, we do that in career management. And are we teaching them about personal finance, about saving money, about getting loans, about checkbooks, and those sorts of things? Yes, we do that in personal finance. So if I have any of those enhancement teachers here as well, please stand, and your students again. And our personal finance students can be certified in EverFi, which is a financial awareness credential. And in the spring, we're bringing on the Conover Credential Workplace and Job Readiness. That is when you go out in the community and they say, well, you know, our workers need soft skills. They need to know to show up on time, to not use their cell phone, the different things you do in the workplace. That job readiness credential covers that. So we feel like that's a very important piece of what we're trying to do. So credentials by the numbers. Last year, CTE students earned 652 credentials. This year so far, we have already earned 420, and the number is probably a little bit more because the Microsoft credentials have not been uploaded into the system yet, and I know we had plenty from first semester of that too. So we're on a very good track to hopefully outpace ourselves on credentials for this school year. Articulated credit, I mentioned that earlier. The 4 steps for articulated credit are: 1, you take a high school CTE course listed in the articulation agreement, and we have a statewide articulation agreement that we can follow, and that's between us and the community college. 2nd, they have to complete the course with a grade of a B or higher. 3rd, they have to score at least a 93 or higher on the standardized CTE post-assessment, which is their end-of-course type test. And then 4, they enroll in a matching career and college promise pathway at a community college within 2 years of high school graduation, and they can receive the articulated credit. Again, not even dual enrollment. We're saving our parents that expense by enrolling them in high school courses, so that's a pretty big deal. We also offer some career and college promise courses, CTE, at our high schools, and this is primarily at North Lenoir right now. Students can certainly take CTE courses through the dual enrollment program through online classes, but actually on our campus, we host automotive at North Lenoir High School, emergency management, industrial engineering, and computer engineering. So those are all things that students can take as juniors and seniors if they qualify. And this is, I won't go through all of this, but I just wanted to show business partnerships. CTE partners with our local community, and we have some folks in this very room that partner with us to help us with job shadowing. Ms. Scheimer does an outstanding job of getting our students ready for that, and the teachers encouraging the students to do the job shadowing. This is so important to get them out in the workplace. But this is a list. I'll just let you kind of look at that. You can see there's a good mix of health care. We've got pharmacy, animal hospital. On this one we have the animal shelter, Parrott's General Store, Harvey Fertilizer, Sale Auto Mall, King's Restaurant, lots of different choices. Bakeries, which my daughter was real excited about when she saw that. The Visitors and Information Center, State Employees Credit Union, H Stadium, the Free Press, the Council for the Arts, hair salons, law firms, thank you. The Army, National Guard, Navy, Farmer and Dale Child Care Center. Even our school system allows students to job shadow in some of our schools. Lenoir Community College, the Sheriff's Office, and City of Kinston. And really, even the other day, a student reached out to one of our administrators and wanted to shadow at Vidant, and so we worked with Ms. Scheimer and she set that up. So really anywhere, we'll try and partner and get our students in there to job shadow. So it's a long list, but it's not the only list. We're very proud of this. In North Carolina, 86.5% of students in North Carolina last year graduated with their cohort. So our graduation rate in the state is rising. In Lenoir County, 97% of students who are CTE completers in Lenoir County Public Schools graduate with their cohort, and that was our last year's number. So our students complete CTE, they complete high school. So it's really important to get our students to grants. So So far this year, our CTE programs have earned more than $45,000 worth of grant money, and part of that is our computer science grant, which was a significant part of that, but there's a lot on top of that too, and I'm really proud of our teachers for going after those dollars so that they can make a difference in their classrooms by using funds that possibly I'm not allowed to use because of certain restrictions, but they can use grant monies for, so that is really wonderful. And to highlight that tonight, I would like to call Mr. Ray Spence up from North Lenore High School. Oh, you're coming too?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Do you want to go ahead and say it? Sure.
All right. I'm Gabrielle Stallings of the North Lenore FFA chapter. I promise I'll be brief, but before I begin, I would like to thank the board for their continuing support of CTE in our middle and high schools, and their continued support of our CTSOs, including the FFA. Tonight, I originally intended to have a representative from the North Lenore FFA Association on hand to present the North Lenore FFA chapter with the $5,000 grant on behalf of the Tobacco Trust Fund Grant Commission. Due to an unforeseen conflict, they cannot be here tonight. However, I would like to speak briefly on their behalf and take a picture of our officers with the board at the end of the meeting. So we could do that. Don't mind. The Tobacco Trust Fund grant originated from the Tobacco Trust Fund Commission, which at the end of this, which is a state-funded entity dedicated to improving communities whose economies once relied heavily on the production of sales of tobacco. Over the past 5+ years, North Lenore FFA has been allotted funds and allowed individual agricultural education programs to receive them through a competitive grant process. North Lenore was one of 37 chapters in the state of North Carolina to be chosen this year and to fund the entire amount of our grant of $5,000. This is our second grant in the past 5 years, garnering $10,000 total for the North Lenore FFA. Funds will be used to increase storage and improve the mechanic shop in North Lenore to modern standards and provide a safe, efficient shop for our students to work in. Welding booths will be built, new machinery purchased, ventilation systems redone, all with the end goal of modernizing the shop to 21st century standards. Renovations will occur over the calendar year of 2018. Once again, thank you for your support of agricultural education, FFA, and the rest of CTE program areas and CTSOs. Thank you.
Okay, well, fine. I didn't know. Okay. Just a few little extra numbers, and then I want to highlight some improvements, and then we have some students that we're going to spotlight as well. And again, I thank you for allowing us to celebrate CTE tonight. 70% of our animal science students at North Lenore are participating in the swine project. This is where they actually go as a supervised experience and work with small animals, which they'll then show and sell. So really giving them that business experience. We have indicators that we have to meet in CTE. 2 years ago, or excuse me, last year, 2 years ago, CTE met 3 out of 8 indicators. Last year, CTE met 5 out of 8 indicators. So while we're not where we want to be yet, we are definitely making progress. And 7 out of 7 of those 8 indicators, we increased our proficiency numbers in those areas. So we know we'll get that 8th one to increase this year as well. So I'm very proud of our teachers and the work they're doing to help increase proficiency and technical attainment for CTE. We also sent 500 students to Manufacturing Day, which was a huge event and widely publicized across the region. Some other improvements that I'm very proud of course, we won the computer science grant. Last school year, we refreshed all of our CTE computer labs so our students have the most updated technology. This year, we've spent time and effort updating the South Lenore High School greenhouse. We've added the engineering strand of Project Lead the Way at North Lenore High School. And I'm very proud that we're expanding the early childhood education program and that we'll be expanding into computer science, which I'm really excited about what your kids were doing. We'll be expanding computer science into the upcoming school year. So very proud of the work we're doing. And we're going to spotlight our students at this time and just want to say thank you for your support of the CTE programs in Lenore County. Come visit us at the schools at any time. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. But at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Logan Clark, who is from the North Lenore High School Agriculture Department.
Hello, my name is Logan Clark from the North Lenore FFA. I'd just like to talk about how career technical classes are great for allowing students to gain specialized education in their field of interest. There are many CTE classes offered, but the one that I take special interest in is the agriculture classes. There are many classes in each of the 3 main divisions that we offer: animal science, horticulture, and ag mechanics, with all having fantastic teachers that are knowledgeable and help us through our classes. These classes focus on classroom time but also allow the students to get out and have hands-on experiences with greenhouse, animals, and the mechanic shop that allow us to have these lessons. These courses have allowed me to gain great knowledge, which otherwise would be obtained later and not as easily. But with them, I am better prepared for my future in agriculture.
At this time, I'd like to ask Nayana Myers, Jemiah Williams from Kinston High School in the Health Sciences Department to come.
Hello, my name is Nayana Myers, and I'm a former student at Kinston High School, graduating class of 2018. After graduating high school, I plan to go to college to become a CNA. Because of health science, I decided to advance my way to health science 2 honors, and it was more of a visual learning class by job shadowing at UNC Illinois for clinical days. To further my education, I am now engaged in our CTE internship course, and I would like to thank Ms. Lynn for all that I know.
Hello, my name is Jemiah Williams. I am Kinston High School HOSA co-president. HOSA helps me develop my leadership skills with public speaking, my self-confidence with competitions, and understanding healthcare issues by volunteering in my community. National Alliance on Mental Illness is our national service project for this year. We are part of finding out help for mental illness. Thank you.
And I have 2 students from South Lenore High School, Brandon Rodriguez and Yossi Escobar Alcantara, who would like to showcase their Project Lead the Way projects. And are they for that? Okay. We have a display, so we're going to bring it up.
While they're coming forward, Mr. Sandman reminded me as Yoshi came in that she is one of our students from Science Olympiad competition on Saturday who will be going to the state level competition at NC State University. So let's give her a round of applause.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Yusari Escobar, and this is Brandon Rodriguez. We are part of the South Lenore High School Project Lead the Way. At South Lenore, we have the opportunity to take 4 different classes. They are Introduction to Engineering, Principles of Engineering, Digital Electronics, and Engineering Design and Development. Brandon will be speaking in regards to engineering, Introduction to Engineering, and Principles of Engineering, and I will be speaking about the second 2.
In IED, we use a combination of math and science engineering standards in order to complete the tasks and projects. I enjoy the fact that we're able to work as a group in order to accomplish the required goals. We use several different tools, and we also use Autodesk in order to create our projects. Here we have a display of our automotive boxes. we created designs, axles, and we also created different camshafts in order for it to move and successfully go. In POE, we do more problem solving. We created some simple machines, and we use engineering formulas in order to calculate the actual mechanic advantage and the ideal mechanical advantage.
In digital electronics, the topics we deal with are more digital. We use combination of sequential logic gates, and integrated circuits. We use a digital multimeter to measure the value of volts, currents, and resistance. We also use a computer software called Multisims and create computer-generated flip-flops and latches and synchronous counters. EED is considered to be the capstone course in Project Lead the Way, and it's the 4th class, the final class that you take. In that class, you work in teams to create a project that constructs a solution to an engineering problem. Currently, my team and I are in the process of our design steps, where you present information to tell how your concept is an engineering innovation, and it will help, and also explains the actual steps that you'll take in the actual process of building.
Okay, for example, this is one of the boxes. I made this one, and to give it a vivid atmosphere, I used 2 chickens, one stronger than the other one, and I also put golden eggs just to give it another look. And here's the camshafts. I used the eccentric camshafts, and also we had to put in the axles in order for it to go.
That's awesome.
That's neat.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that is all I have for you tonight. Thank you for allowing us to take the time to spotlight and highlight our programs, our CTE programs in Lenore County Public Schools, and thank you again for your support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Ms. Jones. Does anyone take a picture of that and go? We'll move to the next item on our agenda, the financial report. Mr. Adams.
Good evening, board members. Tonight's financial report for January 2018 is for your review. It summarizes budget to actual activity, and as well as local fund balance as of January 31st.
All right. Any questions for Mr. Adams on the financial report this evening? All right. Is that all you have for us? Or
I think for now.
For now? We'll call you back in a minute for a budget amendment. We'll move to the action portion of our agenda. The next item is the Lenore County Early College 2018-2019 calendar. Ms. Herring.
Yes, sir. Thank you. We have presented to you the proposed calendar for the upcoming school year for 18-19 for Lenore County Early College High School. Their calendar, as you know, is separate. It doesn't reflect the calendar for Lenore County Public Schools as a whole. Their calendar reflects the community college calendar. And then Ms. Heath did submit the calendar. It was to be on the January board meeting, but since I was not here, so I brought it to the February meeting. But it's for first review, if you have any questions, but it really reflects the community college calendar.
All right. We'll entertain a motion to approve the calendar. All right. We have a motion by Mr. Anderson. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. Second by Mr. Davis. Any further discussion on the calendar? All right. We'll call for a vote. All in favor, raise your right hand. All right. Mr. Smith? Aye. All right. Mr. Woods? Aye. All right. Let it reflect that it was unanimous.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Next item is the out-of-state school trips.
Yes,
Ms.
sir.
Herring.
Thank you. We have 2 schools, Lenore County Learning Academy and Woodington Middle School, are both requesting the opportunity to visit Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Woodington is asking to visit Medieval Times. Their 6th grade would like to go on May the 4th. They'll take a charter bus. They'll leave and come back the same day. And the Lenore County LCLA would like to go to WonderWorks, which is also in Myrtle Beach. It's a STEM experience. It's a hands-on experience. They go, I think this is something they do yearly, and it's part of their PBIS reward system that they have in place at LCLA. And they are asking, they would like to take 15 students, and they also are chartering a bus. And that trip is May the 11th.
All right. Do we have a motion to approve the trips?
Move to approve.
All right. Motion by Mr. Davis. Do we have a second? Second by Mr. Hill. Any further discussion on the out-of-state school trips? And we'll call for a vote. All in favor, raise your right hand. Aye. All right. Mr. Smith, that was aye. Aye. And aye for Mr. Woods. They are approved.
Thank you.
Next item is some surplus items.
Yes.
Should normally be Mr. Harvey, but I'm assuming it's Ms. Herring tonight.
Yes, so on behalf of Mr. Harvey, I am presenting some surplus material from the Media and Technology Department. The understanding is that these items have certainly exceeded their life expectancy. We'd like an opportunity to have them considered for surplus so we could get rid of them.
I move the items be deemed surplus.
All right, motion by Mr. Anderson. Second. Second by Mr. King. Any further discussion on the surplus items? We'll call for a vote. All in favor, raise your right hand. Aye. All right. Mr. Smith, that was an aye. Aye. And an aye for Mr. Woods. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is Mr. Adams back with the 2017-2018 budget amendment.
Yes, sir. Budget amendment number 2 is used to amend the working budget for Lenore County Public Schools. Fund sources being amended are state public school fund, capital outlay funds, and other local current expense funds. If there's any questions on any specific lines listed in the background information, I'm happy to answer those.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
the general take on these, most of these were pluses, right?
I'm sorry.
Most of these were pluses.
They were most significantly was the transportation allotment adjustment that's received mid-year after the efficiency rating, as well as some special education program funds, and then LEA finance school buses was about $500,000 there.
Yeah, it's a positive addition to our budget.
It is, and it's all planned allowance. They're just sort of received throughout the year.
Any questions for Mr. Adams on the budget amendment? And we'll entertain a motion to approve.
Move to adopt.
All right, motion by Mr. Anderson. Do we have a second? Second. Second by Mr. Hill. Any further discussion on the budget amendment? And we'll call for a vote. All in favor, raise your right hand. Aye. An aye from Mr. Smith. Aye. And an aye from Mr. Woods. They are approved.
Thank you.
Next item is the Lenore County Partnership Agreement, Community Teams with Schools. And we'll let Mr. Williams start, but I know Ms. Elizabeth Heath, one of our judges from the 8th Judicial District, is also here with us on that issue.
Honored to have Judge Heath with us tonight. Welcome. Tonight, it's my pleasure to bring for your consideration a document that you've had in draft form for the last couple of months. You received at a previous meeting, and we talked about at that time in terms of coming to the final stages of developing our partnership agreement. But this diversion program that a multi-agency task force of Lenore County stakeholders has been working to develop over the last few months in order to address what over time has been a very high number of criminal charges against school-age youth. And we've been working to create this partnership, and again, meeting over time, almost a year. We've been working and really started with the end in mind, with what needs to change. The number of young people who are facing charges in our schools. The long-term results of these charges are that they tend to follow the young people through the college application process and into the world of work, into adulthood. Indeed, in many cases, these tend to be life sentences, punishments for young people. And it might be, and in looking into the data and delving into that, we were seeing that the categories tended to be simple or fray, disorderly conduct, things like that. And two kids, literally, you could go scenario by scenario, everything's situation specific, but an example would be two children pushing in a hallway, and they were pushing on each other, and one pushed the other against the wall. Well, they both could receive, and the other pushed back, and both could receive charges, and those charges could follow both young people. Not only through, as I said, if they were, say, 16 years old or older, they could follow them through the rest of their high school experience, through the college application process, into the world of work, and when they were applying, hopefully if they would go through college and seeking a job, that would follow them, potentially damaging their potential to get a job of any type. So certainly this was a big problem, is a big problem, has been over time. The data is very clear and alarming on that. Judges Beth Heath, who's here with us tonight, thank you, Judge Heath, for being here, and Judge Erica James were the first to express strong concerns about these alarming trends based on the data. They took the proactive step of saying we can do better, we can work together, and they set about the task of looking around our area and beyond to see what is working, what have other people done, have any districts, have they figured this problem out, or are they working productively to make a difference in this area? And they were able to find an example, a model program in New Hanover County, and a partnership agreement between community stakeholders there, law enforcement, the juvenile justice system, the judges, county commissioners, school board members, all the concerned parties coming together to form a committee. And we did that, and we've been meeting for several months. Our chairman sergeant is on the committee, member Merle Smith is on the committee, I am, Mr. Harvey is, Judge Heath is, of course Judge James is, Chief of Police is, Sheriff is, Social Services Representation, Juvenile Justice, JCPC, and the list goes on and on. But all community entities coming together to say we can do better, how can we do better? Again, the New Hanover model was a model that we looked at, we studied, we talked to the people in New Hanover. A judge from there who's also been a parent in the school system there, Judge Corpening, came down to facilitate our meetings and to facilitate the development, the process and the development of a document that would work for Lenoir County and for Lenoir County Public Schools and our children here. And that really became the nucleus of the document that you have had for the last couple of months. We have collaborated, we've talked, we've discussed many things, and Judge Heath and Mr. Sargent can elaborate on those as well. But the essence of the agreement is all these parties coming together and identifying a list of focused acts and saying, we're looking at this list of acts in schools. We want to be tough about discipline in schools, and we will be. We want to be tough about maintaining peace and justice and the law, upholding the law in our schools, and we will be. But we also know from the data that there is an alarming trend of children who've been charged with comparatively minor offenses in schools, and these offenses follow them. So what can we do about it? We have this list of focused offenses or focus acts, and we as a committee would agree these are the steps we'll take in first response to it, that there will be a warning when appropriate, that there will be a first offense response that would be the warning or the meeting with the parents, the parent contact, an intervention. And many of these things in the school system, we're all, before charges, considering charges as the first course of action. Many of these things in the school system we're already very familiar with because it aligns exactly with our positive behavior interventions and supports, tiered system of discipline response protocol framework. And we're very pleased that this aligns with everything else that we're doing. We've been able to cut the discipline rate in many of our schools. We've given you as board members and others in the community examples of that as we've been going forward. Some of our schools have cut the discipline rate dramatically using PBIS and all of the theoretical underpinnings there. Well, the same is true here. And so tonight we're bringing this document before you for your consideration and saying that basically we want to do everything we can to make sure that our first course of action is not putting charges against children, young people in our schools unnecessarily. Now when it's necessary, we need to hasten to say that. When it's necessary, then it should happen. And it should and it will happen in every single case when that's necessary, when the situation mandates it. But instead looking at it through a lens of situation-specific circumstances and saying, okay, as a general rule, we're going to have a first offense consequence that does not involve an initial charge. As a general rule, we're going to have, this is going to be the second step, the second course of action response. the third, and a tiered response protocol system. And that's radically different than what we have now. And we certainly want to try that. We have universal agreement on our committee. Judge Heath has led that committee at this point. I'll decrease and let Judge Heath speak. But Judge, we thank you for being here. And we thank you for your role, your vision, your initial vision in bringing this forward, and your role in leading us forward. Because all districts will have to do this by the end of the year, by the end of December. It's now the law. They'll have to do something like this and have a diversion program in place. But thank you for leading us in these efforts.
Thank you. Thanks for allowing me to be here tonight to talk about it. I really think we've been working on it more than a year.
A year might be conservative.
It might be conservative. And one of the things I want to point out to everybody is, from my perspective, is how progressive I feel like our school administration is with these types of issues, just from what I've seen around the state. I want just to add a little bit to the history. Some of you may or may not know, North Carolina passed what I call raise the age legislation back last summer, and prior to that, we were the last state in the country to treat 16 and 17-year-olds like adults. And so I've been on the bench now 16 years, and we've been talking about it that whole time, about how 16 and 17-year-olds are not adults, and they don't need to be treated like adults for all purposes in the criminal justice system. And it's really created a disadvantage for youth in our state for that to be the case. So this has been a long-going effort. It finally passed this past summer. And the interesting thing is we had actually started working on this project before that even happened, just because we wanted to try to do something to have other chances and opportunities for youth who made bad decisions, which I know I did, and I know probably a lot of y'all did too. And we don't, if we'd have gotten caught doing some of it, we might not be sitting where we are today. And so we wanted, that's what started it, was trying to, because we've had teen court. I know some of y'all have heard about teen court, but it was primarily for under 16-year-olds. So we were seeing a lot of the 16 and 17-year-olds coming into district criminal court for some little, what we consider small, class 3, lowest level misdemeanor offenses, and ended up with a criminal record. And so they weren't really eligible for teen court. So we started trying to talk about what were some other things we could do. And this group, Brent Williams and John Sargent and Ms. Heron all came very willingly into the process to try to talk with us in the court system about what kind of different things we could do. And I was excited about that. And we were well into talking about it. And Judge Corponin from New Hanover, he had gone ahead, he'd had his program in place for about 2 years and was already being able to measure the results statistically with what the successes were in his district. So we had him coming up here, and then in the middle of it, they passed the legislation. And so the legislation actually has a provision in it that requires each community to create what's called a school to justice partnership. And that partnership is actually modeled in good part on what Judge Corponin did in New Hanover County, in that it was a community effort, identifying community stakeholders, getting everybody to come together to really be a support and help to the school system, because the truth is that most of these events happen at school. And so how can we all, the court system, juvenile justice, the DA's office, other community stakeholders, be supportive to the school to help with these behaviors that are going on there? And so those partnerships are now required by statute, along with a partnership agreement and a plan about how to address these behaviors. And I'm excited because other than Judge Corponin, we're one of the first districts. Our district are Wayne, Lenore, and Greene counties, and we've been doing it in all 3 of our counties, and we will be one of the first
districts in the state to actually have our agreement finished before the law even requires us to, is the hope. So I think that's exciting, and I think that we could not do that at all if it had not been for the Lenore County Public Schools, not just willingness, but enthusiasm about trying to get this done. So I'm very excited about that. I think that it's going to really be good for our youth. And you know, you may hear people talking as we go into this process. I still hear this, well, you know, aren't you letting them off? Aren't you letting the kids off? Well, I don't think we're going to be, because I think that the consequences and the responses that we put into place for the things that are going on are actually going to be more effective than what really happens to them when they come in to district court and they get to have to pay the court cost and a $10 fine, and their parents don't even have to be there with them. This whole process is going to require parent involvement. There'll be services in place potentially. Whatever the issue is, it may include substance abuse treatment, it may include I was really excited to hear about these credential programs, because I'm thinking, how can we use those credential programs possibly as a response to whatever the things are that are going on. There's got to be some way we can do that, to try to look at why kids are choosing to do the things they're doing and try to make different choices. So I'm excited about that. Y'all have been great partners. I'm really looking forward to getting this agreement signed. And as we move into it, we will have, I'm envisioning probably quarterly meetings of our stakeholders, and we will be addressing this, I'm sure, yearly, our agreement, to make sure that it's working like we need it to, and make changes if we need to, or if you guys have changes that we need to look at. This is not my agreement, this is everybody's agreement, so it may evolve, but that's good, and that's what we need it to do. So I guess that's pretty much, I'm asking for, you know, the school board's support in it, and I certainly want the school board to sign off on it, along with other folks that'll be doing that. It'll be myself, law enforcement, other county and city stakeholders. So any questions anybody has about any of it?
Any questions for Judge Heath? Yeah, I mean, go ahead. If you have a question, I'll talk about it, but if you have a question, go ahead and ask it now.
You said it was Lenore, Wayne, and Greene counties?
Our agreement is just us.
Just okay.
Yeah.
So each one will have to have their own separate agreement?
We do.
Okay.
Each group, I'm working with Lenore and I'm working with Greene, and Judge James is working with Wayne. But when we first started, the very first couple of meetings we had, we did it district-wide, just because we were trying to figure out, you know, what was going on, what we were doing. And Judge Corporan was coming to speak to us, and we were trying not to, even though he's later gone around individually to the counties. In the beginning, he just came and gave his initial presentation to our whole district. But this is just us. Early on we figured out it was not really feasible to try to do it as a district, each camp, because it's so geared towards the school system.
And there's somewhat of a precedent for an agreement like this. We already, for the last few years now, about 6 years, we've had a diversion program for first-time offenders for alcohol and drugs, when it's not involving the possession for sale of drugs. And that's been very successful, and I know some were very questioning of that at first, when our school leaders were. But I think that they would tell you that they support it universally and strongly now.
Well, and I'll just mention something about that. We've been studying this long enough now to know that even the very first contact between a juvenile and law enforcement significantly increases that child's likelihood of not graduating from high school and from becoming involved and even imprisoned as an adult. So, and that's just the very first contact. As you move into an actual arrest, an actual court appearance, an actual conviction, and then response, whatever the sentencing and the punishment is, each one of those steps increases even greater
the likelihood that that child will not graduate from high school and will be in prison as an adult. So this is very important, and also the evidence shows that the numbers of offenses that this age group does, and I can't remember it exactly, but it's really high. It's like 80-some% or even higher are lowest level misdemeanor offenses. There's only a very small group that is that are in the considered, like a felony or something, those very much more serious offenses. And those aren't the offenses that we're talking about with this agreement. Those are going to go through the court system like they always have. These are the vast majority of what this age group gets involved in, are the low-level offenses.
Other questions for Judge Heath? No, I was just going to say, this is a conversation that really needed to happen for a long time. Not just in Lenoir County, but really across the state. For years, people have been charging students for some act that happened on school grounds. You get charged with a criminal offense. And there was a whole lot of inconsistency, in my opinion, on when somebody got charged or when they didn't get charged. A lot of that was just purely in the discretion of the SRO, the officer who was at the scene. You would see some schools where a lot of people got charged. You'd see some schools where hardly anybody ever got charged. And it really, there needed to be a discussion about what goes into that decision to charge a student with something that happens during the school day or on school property. Because we weren't doing any favors to these kids. When they get charged with a crime, they get a conviction, it's reported on their college applications. They're not getting into college. They're not getting into the military. They can't get financial aid, all because somebody pushed somebody else in a hallway. And I'm not saying that we can't handle discipline the way we always handle discipline. But some of those things were really holding kids back and affecting their future. And we do everything we do to try to give our kids the best advantage when they leave us. And this just seems something that was just really counterproductive to our students. When they would get in that situation, we were really hurting them down the road. And we really shouldn't be doing that. So we really tried to look at that decision on when does a child get charged with a crime. What I want to make it clear is this whole agreement really has no effect on the way we as a school system handle discipline. We're going to handle discipline just like we always have. We can still expel students. We can still give them suspensions, PBIS. This is not about how we discipline our students within the system. There's two separate systems going on here. One is our system of discipline and one is the court system of discipline. And the question is, when does the court need to get involved? And at what level? And that just really needed some consistency to it. We needed some standards for the SROs to really look at and be able to look at and say, okay, this is one that somebody needs to be charged on, or this is one that doesn't. And we need to treat all of our students fairly and equally. We make that decision. We don't need to discriminate against certain groups of students and charge them when we don't charge others. We want uniformity, equal and fair treatment for all of our students. So if you're at one high school and you commit an act, you should be treated the same as if you had done that at another high school. We've got to get rid of the bias in the system at least as much as we can. And this really brings everybody together to have that conversation. We met with the Sheriff's Department. They had representatives there, the Chief of Police. They've both been incredibly supportive of this. They don't want to charge kids any more than they have to, but there are occasions when they do. The other thing, like Judge Heath said, this is not going to affect a serious incident that happens at school. It doesn't let anybody off the hook for anything serious that happens at school. They're still going to get charged just like they always were. What we're trying to focus on are really those minor incidents that happened at school, and we want to take a much closer look at those. And in cooperation between the administrator and the SRO and communication between those two, hopefully we can better serve our students. And I want to thank Judge Heath and Judge James especially for coming forward. This is an idea that really needed to come about for a long time. I remember when I was in school, if somebody got in a fight in school, I don't remember anybody ever getting charged with a crime. Now granted, it was a pretty long time ago. But these days, it became almost routine for kids to be charged with a crime. And then, you know, there goes their college, there goes their government funding, you know, there goes their opportunity to serve in the military. I mean, it's just substantial consequences for when that happens. And so we need to be sure that when it does happen, it was really merited. And I think that's what this agreement does. We've spent a lot of time going through it and trying to work out all the details. And I think we finally got it in a point where we're satisfied with it and we think we can move forward. You want to add anything, Mr. Williams?
So as Mr. Sargent said, this agreement does have broad-based support among community stakeholders, specifically, well, among all the stakeholders participating in on the committee, but specifically, as he indicated, leadership from our law enforcement agencies, from our sheriff and our chief of police, who were both on the committee and very enthusiastic about the process.
Mm-hmm.
And then determining, and as Mr. Sargent said, our school discipline practices are going to move forward as they have been, and we believe that we've been progressive in moving those forward anyway, and holding students accountable for very high expectations for discipline, while at the same time seeing how we can reduce some of the disciplinary infractions and regain instructional time, keeping our students in school. But really, this comes down to one thing. If you had to boil everything else away, I think it can be distilled away to looking at the difference between a disciplinary violation and a violation of the law. Is something just a disciplinary violation that would result in a disciplinary punishment at school, or is it a violation of the law that requires charges and going to court and starting down the road of being in the juvenile court system or even adult court system? So tonight we're bringing the agreement before you for your consideration and hopefully for your approval.
All right.
So, other than you, there has an attorney taking a look at it, right?
Oh, yes. Tharrington Smith.
Tharrington Smith has
Okay.
reviewed it for the school system. Yes, sir. And I have, remember, but not in that capacity. Thank you.
Just a question I got.
All right, this is Mr. Smith.
Just looking at it on the acts that are considered focused acts, even though they are focused acts and require the intervention of the various parties that has been listed in this agreement, just we still understand that those still are reported to the state as school system acts as far as we have to report them.
Yeah, the way I understand your question, the agreement doesn't change what our reporting requirements would be.
And it also doesn't limit law enforcement in any way or limit the school system in any way. If a situation, the specific details of a situation and the severity of the offense would warrant a more traditional approach in the filing of charges, certainly that would be a possibility.
Right, and my reason for stating that was I thought I understood it correctly, but I just want the principals to make sure that doesn't negate their responsibility to report them as whatever the incidents are to the state for our school purposes.
Oh no, this doesn't change what happened. It just it changes our response to what happened.
Would not change any of our principals' reporting requirements.
Right. Okay.
All right, any other questions, discussion? Do we have a motion to approve the interagency agreement as presented?
Move to approve the interagency procedure as presented.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Smith. Do we have a second? Second. We have a second by, I'm going to give it to Mr. Hill, but Mr. Woods was a close second on the second. Any further discussion on the motion to approve the agreement as presented? I would also say that I think we're the first ones to really approve it at this point. And of course, we have the largest board to have to approve it, other than law enforcement and some of the other groups. So if there are future changes or modifications, I mean, we could have to bring it back, but basically we're asking that it be approved in the current form. If it were to change substantially, then we would bring it back to the board for consideration. So having any further discussion?
I think I read that if it had to be modified in a way, all parties would have to come back together and agree. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
All right, having no further discussion, we're going to call the matter for a vote. All in favor, raise your right hand.
Aye.
And that's an aye for Mr. Smith.
Aye.
And an aye for Mr. Wood, so it is approved. All right,
I just want to take a moment to
go ahead.
thank Judge Heath and Judge James and all those in law enforcement, everybody and the board members that were involved coming together to put this in action, because I think it's something, like Paul said, it's been long overdue. And I really appreciate you, Judge Heath, for your part in this as well. And thank you for coming to the meeting to share with us tonight.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, we will now entertain a motion to go into closed session.
I move that the Lenore County Board of Education go to closed session under North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11 to prevent disclosure of confidential personnel files, to consult with the board's attorney in order to preserve their attorney-client privilege, and to consider matters relating to the initial employment of an individual employee.
All right, motion to go into closed session by Mr. Hill. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Anderson. All in favor, raise your right hand. All right.
And board members.
Aye for Mr. Smith.
Come down front.
And an aye for Mr. Woods. So we are now in closed session. We will entertain a motion to approve the personnel report with the addendum.
Move to approve the personnel report with the addendum.
All right, motion by Mr. Smith. Do we have a second? Second. All right, second by Ms. King. All in favor of approving the personnel report with the addendum, raise your right hand.
Aye.
And an aye for Mr. Smith. And an aye for Mr. Woods. Personnel report with the addendum is approved. We have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right. I'm sorry. Is there one more? Oh, I'm sorry. We have an announcement.
Yes, Mr. White, would you stand up, please? I'd like to congratulate Mr. White. He has agreed to step in. We have a vacancy in the Media and Technology Department, and Mr. Decker has recently retired, and it's a big loss. It's going to take some time to fill that position. Mr. White has agreed to step into the position of Interim Director of Technology. We're very proud of him. He will be leading the technology department for the next few months in a very difficult time. We're going through the Apple refresh, and we certainly need somebody to make good, sound, day-to-day decisions. So, Mr. White, we're proud of you. At this time, let's give him a round of applause.
All right, we have a motion to adjourn by Mr. Anderson with a second by Mr. Davis. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand.
Aye.
All right, aye for Mr. Smith and an aye for Mr. Woods. Thank you, gentlemen. We are now adjourned.